It's a new off-road four-wheel drive Lamborghini. It's called the Urus, and to find out if it's any good, I took the GrandTour to Sweden, armed with some questions. Go. Those turbochargers may be a little bit annoying on the road, but here they're giving me the low-down torque that I need to get up this hill. This is the first Lamborghini to use turbocharging and the first to have an automatic gearbox. Go. There's no manual locking differentials, there's no low-range gearbox. All you can do is fire it up and then put the drive system into snow mode. This car then, it sits right at the moment where excitement stops and terror begins. I'm going to try and overtake this, a four-wheel drive Porsche 911 Turbo, which is being driven by the GrandTour's racing driver, Abby Eaton. Before the duel began, I had a few practice laps on my own. Go. It's incredible. It may not be able to get as far up a ski slope as a Range Rover, but for doing this, it's better. Now we'd find out what's what on our specially designed track. Go. To make this car, Lambo's engineers had a good rummage around in Volkswagen's parts bin. So the engine, a 4-litre V8, is from a Porsche Panamera. The rear axle and air suspension is from a Bentley Bentayga. The platform on which it sits and a lot of the dashboard is from an Audi SQ7. So does that mean this isn't really a Lamborghini at all? For lap after lap, the big, heavy Urus clawed at the rear end of the 911 Turbo. Oh, God! Really? No! But eventually, I had to admit defeat. I can't get past that 911, and that's just an end of it. But I can keep up. And in an off-road car, that is fairly astonishing. It really is.
On April the 7th, 1968, a racing driver was killed in a Formula 2 race in Hockenheim, Germany. Sadly, the driver's death was not a surprising occurrence, because such was the danger of the sport back then. He was one of 127 racing drivers who would die at the wheel that year alone. This time, though, the death sent shockwaves through the motorsport world, because it had just lost the man who was unquestionably the greatest racing driver of his day, and who many argue is still the greatest of all time. The Lotus 25, in which, in 1963, he won his first F1 World Championship.
Oh my God! I am sitting where Jim Clark sat! Go! Unleash the beast! They only made 210 brake horsepower for 1.5 litres, but they were still good for 180 miles an hour. Oh!
Thanks to its revolutionary monocoque chassis, the 25 was stiffer and lighter than any other F1 car, which meant it wasn't just fast on the straights, but quicker through the corners too.
Go! Are you ready? I shall be victorious.
And in the 1963 season, Clark used it to win a record 7 out of the 10 Grand Prix.
Winner is Jim Clark. Nobody could possibly catch him now.
And in between the F2 races, he was jumping into his Lotus Cortina and racking up touring car victories.
Begin! This is dangerous because of you. Good to
On
go.
top of all that, there was America. However, although he already had a Formula One world title to his name, the Scotsman's CV cut no ice with the sniffy Indy officials, who made the upstart from across the pond take a rookie driving test before he could compete.
We're off. Come on, keep going.
Come Indy weekend, the upstart from across the pond qualified on the front row. And then, in the race itself,
Go! Oh no.
And then, on the weekend of April the 7th, Clark had a choice of 2 races he could compete in. One at Brands Hatch, the other a Formula 2 race at Hockenheim. Fatefully, he entered the German race.
April the 7th is a bad day for me. He wasn't happy. It was freezing cold and damp, misty. We could not get any heat into the tyres. Couldn't get any temperature in them, no matter what we did. Jimmy said to me, "Father, I do not expect anything from me today. Just keep me informed with the pit board. where I am, how many laps to go. That's the last thing he said.
On lap 5, Clark's car suddenly speared off the track at 170 miles an hour. When he died, he was just 32. But in his short career, he had racked up some truly incredible achievements. In Formula One, he won 25 of his 73 races, which in percentage terms puts him way ahead of Hamilton, Vettel and even Schumacher. In pole positions, he had 33, which again in percentage terms makes him second best of all time, just behind Fangio.
That was an amazing match.
All of that's amazing. What I find truly amazing is how many championships he took part in. I mean, can you imagine Lewis Hamilton getting out of his Formula One car and saying, I haven't got time for any interviews because I've got to go off and do a touring car race? Exactly. Just wouldn't.
And he did. The other thing that's worth remembering is back in the early 60s, if you went to Australia, if you flew to Australia, that meant 8 stops. Yeah. And there were no flatbed, there weren't even any movies.
Yeah, and let's not forget, he'd get off that aeroplane, do a race, win it, obviously, then get on another aeroplane straight away to France to win a race there.
No, it is astonishing. I mean, everybody has a favourite racing driver. I'm sure everybody here does as well. It's, you know, it's the Senna, Schumacher, Villeneuve, Romain Grosjean, Fangio. But if you use maths to measure a driver's greatness, you have to conclude it was Jim Clark. Good night.